Hi, I'm Hannah. This is Theology Therapist. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about Women Talking, the documentary, and about forgiving abuse. Before I start, I want to just remind you to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already and to press the bell notification so that you can get updates on all weekly uploads. Okay, so I want to talk about Women Talking, the documentary, and really in the context of forgiving abuse with a trauma perspective. So this documentary, if you've watched it, it was so emotional. It was so, I was watching it on the plane and, the stewardess is passing out dinners, crying, I need to take a break because it was a lot. You might have felt that way too. It was a lot to take in too. These women gather around, so if you haven't watched it yet, these women gather around in a circle, really, and they're deciding there's been sexual abuse and assault that has happened in their community, and they're deciding whether or not to, what to do about that. They've come up with these three choices. They say we should either stay, we should go, or we should fight. And they're really thinking through all of the communal and theological implications of each of those choices. So today what I'd like to talk about is these three choices within the context of a trauma perspective. So this individuals within this community, almost all of the women who are having this discussion, they have experienced sexual assault or abuse. And then the community as a whole has experienced this really prolonged trauma happen. So they decide on a few people who are going to make this decision for them because the decision ends up being split. And so they're really discussing all of the pros and cons of each of these options. And so really want to walk you through them. So the first one is to stay. Some of them really do think that they should stay because they have sons, or for the kind of support or the actual resources that they have within the community. And the decision to stay is really a freeze decision. If we're looking at this within a trauma perspective, this is really freeze. We are stuck. I'm not changing. I'm not reacting. I'm just stopping and hoping that, right? Like thinking about this biologically, hoping that the threat goes away. So that's the freeze response, right? Is the stay. The go, this impulse to go is the flight. That's the flight trauma response, is saying, we gotta get out of here. I gotta run because this is not safe for me or my family or whoever. This isn't a safe place, and so we really gotta go. The flight response tends to be like a louder one. It's a lot more activated. There's a lot more energy there, right? Whereas that stay or that freeze response to this decision is a lot more subdued. There's a lot more underneath. There's a lot of fear underneath the surface. You see at some points in the conversation where these women who are arguing to stay, where that fear bubbles up at some points, and it bubbles up through that sort of even keel exterior. And there's this kind of outburst of fear or anger or emotion. The third one is really fight. And that one's easy because, we have fight, flight, freeze. So we actually already understand the fight response. There are a group of these women who actually want to stay and fight. And there's one woman in particular who has this kind of monologue during the movie where she has this monologue about how she actually does want to stay and fight because she wants to hurt or to kill or something like that everyone or anyone who has done this to her daughter. And it's it's just like the most heart-wrenching, touching, but also like identifiable thing out there. And so throughout the movie, these women are really thinking through, like I said, whether to stay, whether to go, or whether to fight. It wasn't something that they just were coming by. It wasn't just a decision that they were just like flippantly coming to. This was a decision that they were looking at the day-to-day implications of, like, how are we actually gonna do something like this if we're gonna go, for example, because they weren't educated, so they didn't even know where they lived in relation to anything else. Like they didn't know where they were on a map. That's not uncommon. And so the trauma response also plays into the resources that you believe that you have available to you. Right? When there's a threat, and you don't believe that you actually have resources available to you, you are more predisposed, if you will, to potentially not fight, right? Because the biologically, our body is saying, what is the thing that is going to get me out of here alive? And oftentimes, fight might not be it. Flight, well, if you don't know where you are on a map, might not be it. And so it stands to reason that a lot of times stay is the chosen option, right? These women have someone there who kind of coaches them on how to do this. So on a forgiving abuse, right, they're really thinking through, how do we forgive something like this? And honestly, they all come to different answers. I think that forgiving abuse, especially in a religious context, but really across the board, is a really individual experience. And there's not one person that could say, you need to forgive because it's best for you. There are lots of people, places, or research that might have research on the benefits of forgiveness biologically, right? Like they might say it's better for you to forgive because you're not kind of holding this thing onto this thing. And while that may be true, may or may not be true, forgiveness is something that is, one, not easy to come by, and two, it can't be forced. And so if something has happened to you, and especially within a religious context, oftentimes what can happen is, especially recently, we've come to find out more about, like within the Southern Baptist churches, like sexual abuse that has been covered up. And so what can happen is that someone might come forward or seek support, seek help for sexual abuse that's happened in this example. And they might be told, okay, well, like, just don't tell anyone. Okay, you need to, we're gonna talk to him, we're gonna talk to this person, whoever it is. So we're gonna take care of it. And we need you to forgive that person. What? Just like in this documentary movie that you see, all of these women come to their own kind of conclusions about whether or not forgiveness is possible for them. And I think that's the same thing for you. If you've experienced something traumatic or upsetting, or that you have to decide for yourself, what is going to benefit me, or what do I need from this? Sometimes you have been told all your life that you have to do X, Y, or Z, or you have to feel X, Y, or Z, or etc. Like you don't have that agency. And so actually deciding to kind of withhold that forgiveness can feel really empowering. It can feel like an empowered decision. And so that's one example of why someone might not choose to forgive. And so I just want to say, if that's you, know that, one, you're welcome here, and two, that you don't have to forgive, that there is no timeline on forgiveness, and that no one can force you into that. If you haven't watched the movie Women Talking, I definitely recommend it, but I also want you to know that if you've experienced any type of sexual assault or abuse, this movie is likely going to be very triggering. So know that ahead of time. I'm so glad that you are here today and that you are watching along. I wanted to let you know one thing. So I have a course that is going to be launching at the end of the summer. So around the beginning of September, end of August, beginning of September. The course is going to be called Making Peace with Your Religious Past. And we're going to be talking about how to regulate your nervous system so that you are no longer afraid of hell, so that you can have satisfying relationships, and so that you can engage with spirituality in a way that isn't triggering. If you are interested in that, or learning more, or joining the wait list and hearing more info about launch dates and any early bird specials that there are, below in the description there is a link for you to join that wait list. And if you have any questions or anything about that, feel free to leave that in the comments. I am going to be linking here a video for you to watch next. I think that you're really going to like. Let me know what you think. I'm Hannah. I'll see you next time.